Kagiso Media owns major radio stations, information services, out-of-home advertising platforms and exhibition companies. The company has a market cap of 3.1 billion rand, a price-to-earnings ratio of 17.7 and a dividend yield of 2.7%. The radio business, this is a little step up from the print environment.
Now, radio does very well, principally because it's extremely cheap to make the signal. You know, all you need is a studio, and these days it's all digital, a couple of personalities, and you're up and away. And the advertising support is strong because, you know, a lot of people listen to the radio when they're imprisoned in their cars on the streets of our cities. So that's going to go well. And the titles these guys have, Jacaranda, OFM, those kinds of things, which are well established in their niches and real strong money spinners. So this has been a solid investment, controlled by Tiso and Kagiso, change of management underway, but, you know, motoring along.
And this is a 4-year graph. Is this an all-time high on the group?
I think it is. Yes.
What do you do with it at these levels? Do you continue to buy?
Again, coming back to Paul's point, I think if you are optimistic and positive on the radio side, which I very much am in a country like South Africa, then I think you stick with this thing because it's relatively small. But never mind, you know, I think you can build on this kind of success, and yeah, I actually quite like it.
Isn't this very attractive? Wouldn't one of the other big media players want to bolt on Kagiso for the radio element?
Look, I'm no expert on the issue of licenses for radio, but I understand that in the past it was very tightly controlled and there was a lot of competition for the licenses. As you know, in most major markets, there's one kind of music adult contemporary leader, and then there's usually a talk station or two and a few other sort of ethnic languages and so on. The question of whether they can transact here, I'm not sure about, because I think there are competition concerns. You know, like if Prime Media, which owns 94.7, were to buy Jacaranda, they would give them an overly strong position in that central market.
Chris is nodding. Do you have any more information on the competitive environment?
No, I've got more information than that.
You're disagreeing.
I agree with Paul, but what I'm saying is I think if you look at one particular title in there, which is Kaya FM, the reach of that thing is quite phenomenal, and it's the right audience. I mean, they've also got Urban Brew, which does quite a lot of
and that's the production of
for the SABC, trying to lessen their the reliance on the state broadcaster. But nevertheless, I think it's actually got quite a lot an interesting sort of mix. I mean, they recently bought Juta, which is going back into the old traditional side of things. But nevertheless, I think it's not a bad mix. I like it.
Well, share price performance is fantastic.
Yes, and I think that's on the back of the fact that the market is liking these growth stories of this scale, which I keep talking about. Murphy Marobe, who was a sort of struggle hero, one of that generation of younger leaders in the UDF, was the CEO until recently. Prior to that, he'd been in government. But I noticed in the recent results he's indicated he's resigning, so they're looking for a replacement. As I said earlier, they're controlled by these two empowerment groups, Kagiso, which is Eric Malobi's old group, and Tiso, which is another quite strong empowerment group with lots of different interests. So I think it's probably quite well positioned, and yes, the radio stations are an attractive asset.
Chris, hot or not on Kagiso Media?
I think Kagiso hot. I like it.
Paul?
Yes, look, I think there are some competitors coming in that space, and I understand that they've found new technologies to keep the bands of FM radio tighter, and the radios are better, so they're going to allocate more licenses. We had a guest on here a couple of months ago who was talking about some new radio station called Power FM, which wants to take on Metro. So there are competition issues, but, sorry, long-winded answer. I think I am hot on it, yes.